So when it comes to three of Xbox's biggest titles that we know about, at least so far for 2024, Hellblade 2 was going to be our first game, followed by Avowed and Indiana Jones. And as a fan of the first Hellblade, I was really looking forward to this game. I thought Hellblade was really unique for what it was. It was kind of a different style of game, obviously a more story-driven experience, but I think they managed to balance it well. And considering the fact that this was a pretty low-budget game to produce, I had high hopes and expectations for Hellblade 2. Now you got that Microsoft money. Now you've got all this bigger budget for this game. What will we see as far as Senua is concerned? How will we expand her adventure within this game? Well, I played Hellblade 2 over the weekend, and man, I got some thoughts about it. So we're just gonna hop straight into this. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, this is a direct sequel to the original Hellblade. Senua is captured by some slavers. She's taken across the sea on a boat. The boat, like, boom, it explodes from a storm that's going on. Senua is, of course, dealing with her mental issues that she has going on, as far as, voices of doubt and potential, maybe a little bit of schizophrenia mixed in there. Like, I think the story itself plays out good. There's a character that kind of alludes to her abusive father when she was growing up. Like, it's obviously something that's pretty deep as far as the story is concerned, and I think they convey it in a pretty solid manner. I don't want to talk too much about the story because, well, I'll talk why as the video goes on, but I think the story for what it was is fine as far as conveying the message of what Senua is doing in this new game. Now, the gameplay of the game is kind of broken up into three different segments, I feel. One of them is walking. You're gonna walk like a lot in this game, and you could do like a little sprint with it. You could hold down a button to do a little bit of a sprint, but I find it funny that there's a scene that happens in the game where Senua is like running at like full speed in a cutscene, yet I can't do that in the actual game. Like, it would have been nice to do that because sometimes walking around can get a little bit boring. There is puzzle solving in the game as well, and really the puzzles are all kind of similar, but they work kind of in a different way. So like the first batch of puzzles you get, you're just kind of lining up different things in the environment to make a symbol, and then that symbol will then take down a door. Then you move on to like fire-based stuff where it's like you gotta light things or extinguish things in order to open up new paths. There's like an orb thing as well. You gotta put balls into a thing. You gotta put 3 balls into it, and you have to find those balls. Yeah, like, it's fine. Some of them are actually a little bit clever, but I would have just liked to have seen like a little bit more variety from it, because pretty much when you're doing a puzzle related thing like that's all you're doing. There's nothing else really happening around you during the puzzle sort of element to it. I got stuck on a few of them, but for the most part they were pretty straightforward. And then of course we have the combat. Now, they say that the combat is a bit faster in Hellblade 2 comparative to Hellblade 1, and if you played Hellblade 1, it definitely wasn't a game known for its combat or anything like that. But it did feel like a decent enough groundwork to where they could expand upon it. Now, I'm not expecting Bayonetta or Devil May Cry levels of combat here, but I thought it would have been like a little bit more refined and a little bit more interesting. But it's really not. Like, you get in one-on-one fights. Everything is a one-on-one fight. Even if there's multiple enemies surrounding you, it's always going to be a one-on-one fight, which I don't really understand why that is the case. You have a light attack, you have a strong attack. You can kind of just mash the buttons to, do some damage. You can also parry or dodge out of the way. All of these animations, though, they look extremely similar. Like, sometimes there is a little bit of a deviation, especially in like a death blow, but as you're actually fighting, it's like the same animations. The combat itself is very weighted. It feels very heavy, which I don't necessarily hate, but there's just not enough combat in the game to like make it interesting. Like, once you get this little focus ability that kind of allows you to slow down time and make Senua slash people faster, which, I mean, really that's what the fights boil down to, is let me fill up this meter by dodging and parrying. Okay, it's filled up, now I could finish off this fight. Like, you learn all of the combat within like the first hour of the game. Like, there's nothing additional that happens to sort of open up that combat. Now, it's not necessarily a combat driven game, but I was just hoping that they could, make it a little bit more intuitive for the player, make it a little bit more, I guess, enjoyable for the player. I feel like there are people that will think the combat is awesome, and I've seen some tweets going on out there where people are like, look at this realistic combat, but it's like, is it realistic? Is it really realistic? Because I don't think if you were fighting a bunch of different enemies, you would be kind of moving in the same way. And that kind of brings us into the presentation of the game, because on paper, this game looks phenomenal. If you're a fan of photo mode, you are going to be in absolute heaven with this game, because you could do all these cool pictures when you're outside and stuff. The facial expressions, the facial animations are just absolutely top notch. Some of the environments look really gorgeous as well, but that's kind of not in motion. When the game is in motion, like, it still looks great, but you notice some things. I definitely noticed, like, movement. Movement feels very clunky. Movement, it almost like feels like a PlayStation 2 game in terms of movement. When you're in these fights, I've had many of fights where, like, we were fighting and we kind of got off of the area that we were in, so the game had to, like, warp us back, and it just really took me out of the experience. The environments themselves do look really nice if you're a fan of, like, rocks and caves and stuff like that, because they don't really show off all that much in terms of different environments to really show what this graphics engine that they have, which is absolutely phenomenal, but they don't really show off, what it's capable of. So many people say that this is like the best looking game ever or something like that. And I think parts of it, as far as facial animations and stuff, definitely are. But I still think the Matrix demo that we got on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, I still think that's leaps and bounds more visually impressive, just because of the fact that there's a lot more variety within it. Now, the audio design in the game is really well done as well. This is actually the standout of the game, much like in the original game. The audio is fantastic. The voiceovers sound great. The way that they use your left and right ear in order to, like, it's definitely a game to play with headphones on, so you can get that full immersive experience about, like, the voices talking in your head. And, like, as someone who sometimes has self-doubt in life, like, I definitely appreciate that aspect of the game, and the sound design really helps exemplify it. And I think that's definitely, by a country mile, the best part of the game. But can we really call this a game? Like, I almost feel like this was a movie. It took me about 5.5 to 6 hours to play through and beat the game. And, like, I get it. Not every game needs to be a super long experience. Not every game needs to have a lot of padding or anything like that in order to elongate the length of the game. But I feel like it's mostly about the story of the game and Senua and her dealing with her mental issues and, trauma of the past and stuff like that. It almost feels better suited, like, for a movie. Like, I just feel like I was expecting a bit more of a jump from Hellblade to Hellblade 2, considering Hellblade 1 cost like $10 million to make. Even if we're at just 5 times the amount of that, let's just say it cost $50 million to make this game, which I think is a little bit on the low end. But, like, you have a larger team, you have a Microsoft budget behind you, you now have more money and more resources in order to make a bigger and better experience. But we're once again just kind of stuck with a very linear experience. Like, cool, the environments look cool, but you can't really explore them. You're pretty much going on a set path. The burned down villages and stuff, like, yeah, those look super cool. You can't really do anything with them, and they're just kind of copy pasted. Like, all the insides of the building all look exactly the same. The combat could have been really cool, but the fact that you see pretty much everything the game has to offer in terms of gameplay, aside from some of the puzzles that you encounter within, like, the first hour of the game, like, I don't know. I think there are aspects of the game that are good. The facial animations, the audio design, things like that. And I think those are definitely standout things. I just don't think this is a very good game, though. And, maybe I was expecting too much. Maybe I was expecting too much, because the original Hellblade, very similar in terms of length. It was actually a little bit shorter than this was. And not every game needs to be super long, but I just figured with more money, more development time, more people involved with this game, and the fact that Xbox was proud of this game. You know what I'm saying? This was a game that they were showing off, for years now, and you would expect this big experience, this game, this AAA style game, even though the cost of the game doesn't really matter. But you know what? that's a whole nother thing. It really feels like a Game Pass game, because if I would have paid $50 for this game, I think I wouldn't have liked it as much. You know, and that's not to say I really liked it a lot right now, but I think I would have even been potentially a little bit more critical on it. But the fact that it was a Game Pass game, it's almost like the wrong game at the wrong time. Like, it's fine. If you have Game Pass, play it. It'll take you a day or two to get through it, depending on how much you got going on. You'll roll the credits. You can go back and do some unlockable stuff, like find some hidden totem things to get more story if you want to do that. I didn't really want to do that. I felt like the story concluded itself in a decent enough manner, but I just was hoping for more from this game. The development time, the leap to the Xbox Series X, you know, the fact that the team was bigger, there's more money involved in it, like, just, I don't know, the clunky animations definitely take me out of the game. The fighting, the combat, it's not very good. The puzzles are fine, but nothing really unique. It's like if I scored games, I'd give this a 5 out of 10. Like, there's definitely nice aspects about it, but I feel like the actual game portion itself, the portion that you play, is just very lacking. But maybe I'm wrong on this. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about Hellblade 2. Did you end up getting this on Xbox Game Pass, or did you buy it for some reason because you decided to buy it? Which, hey, I'm not going to judge you for that. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Like I said at the start, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.